Good evening and welcome to the September 28th, 2022 Town of Dudley Planning Board meeting. First, present this evening, we have Steve Wetruba, Vice Chairman, Thomas Chinaki, Clerk, Richard Clark, Member, David Durgan, Member, William Scanlon, Acting Town Planner, and myself, Guy Horn, Chairman. First item on our agenda for this evening is Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first item after that on our agenda, under new business, approval of minutes from September 14th, 2022. Did everyone have a chance to review the minutes from the last meeting?
Mr. Chairman, I would move we accept the meeting minutes for September 14th, 2022 as presented.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
You were present for that?
Yep.
Yeah,
Do
okay.
you want to pass around copies to sign?
Yeah, 2 copies you need? Do we have them in here or are they?
Yes.
I got a copy here. Can I do an X?
Actually, I gotta get David's on that.
He's already going this one, so.
Oh, does he? All
I'm not
right.
gonna make him do it twice.
Next time would have been an X.
All right, so
That
there's
was
what
what was terrible before. Really bad news.
Okay, next item on our agenda, A&R plans. Discussion of a 2009 A&R plan for Interville Circle. Brody De Silva owners.
So, Mr. Chairman, this item is going to be postponed tonight. There was a lot of discussion back and forth in the past couple of days about this matter, and the situation is that back in 2009, an A&R plan was approved by the planning board, which affected 5 Intervale Circle, which was a 5-acre lot. And that plan divided off another piece that the owner of 5 Intervale Circle acquired. And a note on the plan said that they were to be combined as one lot, but in fact, the surveyor made a mistake and it was not the intent to actually combine the 2 lots. However, based on the plan, the assessors in fact combined the 2 lots into 1 lot. So they want to separate those lots again, and they were hoping that the planning board would act on its own and just say, we accept the fact that it was never intended to be combined. But after some discussion with myself, the attorney, and the surveyor, we decided that it would be better if they submitted a new A&R plan.
Without the wording.
Right. To split the lots back
Yeah.
to the way they were originally in 2009.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
So that just happened on yesterday, I think. So we don't have the plan this evening, but we should have it tomorrow night. That second lot is not a buildable lot. It was just a piece that, the owner wanted to purchase. So it doesn't affect any new buildable lots, but it just reestablishes the lines as they existed back in 2009.
Okay. So we'll get that for our next meeting probably.
I think so.
Okay. All right, so number 3, we have discussion of zoning amendments, the October town meeting.
So I prepared the zoning articles as we talked about
Yep.
at our last meeting. The public hearing notice has been published in the Webster Times and will appear again on Friday. The public hearing is scheduled for October 12th at our next meeting. 7 o'clock, I believe. I've sent you, and you have in your packet, the proposed amendments. Many of these you haven't really seen in this form, so I thought we could just have a moment to review them and discuss them if you had any questions or comments. But this is what's been advertised, so
Yeah.
we can certainly make changes after the hearing if
think we
that's your
can.
intent.
I think we could go through them quick if it's all right, and just see if any board members have any questions or anything.
Sure.
Well, item 1 is got a typo, but the amendment's correct, so it doesn't really matter, I guess.
Where's the typo?
It says that they're open from 8 PM to 10 PM, so that's only 2 hours a day.
Yeah,
Thank you.
probably not what they want.
That'll really quiet things down in that neighborhood.
Well, it says,
Medical Treatment Center may be open from 8 PM to 10 PM.
where do you see that?
It's,
On your summary list here, proposed
okay.
zoning amendments.
So it was to change from 8 to 10, it was my intent.
They required it to close at
So
8
maybe
now,
you're-
but you're changing it to 10.
You're right, it's not worded properly.
It's not worded properly, yeah.
It's currently, closing time is 8 PM, and they want to change it to 10 PM.
Yeah, because
Right.
literally it says the center may
You're
be
right,
open
you're
from
right.
8 PM to 10 PM.
Yeah,
It's the
I
way-
agree,
it's
that's not-
depending on how you read it.
Right.
But the article warrant is, the language in the warrant.
Yes, and the-
Correct.
So are we gonna have time to change that if, after the public hearing, we get a lot of opposition and we come to, like, for instance, say we ended up with a compromise and said, 9 PM instead? Give them an
That can be
extra
changed,
hour.
sure. Yeah.
There'll be plenty of time to change that before,
Right.
we don't
Yeah,
have to
put it
amend it
in
on
the
the floor.
warrant. As you wish, I believe.
Okay.
Well, actually, that's a selectman-sponsored article, so I think we probably have to stay as written, but your recommendation would be that it be changed in your report to town meeting.
Yeah. Because I took the liberty of looking at the hours of all of the marijuana dispensary facilities around here. I looked at the ones in Charlton, the ones in Webster, and I even looked at like 2 or 3 that were in Worcester. And I noticed that the majority of them are closing at 9 o'clock. 10 o'clock's actually, even some of the ones in Worcester don't stay open till 10. I also noticed that the majority of them all close early on Sunday for some reason. Not sure what the logic is behind that, but
To that point, Bill, they would be open till 10 every day that they are open. And that would be, what are they, 7-day-a-week operation currently?
I don't know if they have shorter hours right now on Sunday, but
I believe the bylaw doesn't make a distinction for the day of the week.
and the Leicester one closes extra, the Leicester one actually closes extra early, and I think that even during the week, and I think that might be because that's such a rural. I think the Leicester one is the one that's on like, almost like a country road, or, because I remember when it first opened. it
It's
was
on
a
Route
big-
9.
Do we know that they open Sundays as well?
I don't know.
There's no blue laws.
I know, but
It
I
might
mean,
be
it would be their
specified in
option to
the-
be open or not open on Sunday. I don't know whether they're.
It might be specified in the host community agreement, I can look that up.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, because if we don't say anything about it, then they could just go with it 7 days, can go with whatever's in the
Right.
article for 7 days a week.
Well, I commend Mr. Wetruba in having checked that out, and maybe we need a little more definition or explanation in terms of what that means in terms of 5 days a week, 6 days a week, 7 days.
Anything else on the Article 1?
And that's sponsored by the selectmen, right?
Right, but we have to give a recommendation out because it's a zoning article. Okay, so let's move on to number 2. This one is on permitted uses in the mill overlay and the mill conservation overlay district by
Excuse me,
adding.
Mr. Chairman, two just showed me from the Greatest Hits website, they have hours on Sunday, 9 AM to 8 PM.
So they are open
So
Sunday.
it's actually 7 days a week, 9 AM to 8 PM.
There you go. Okay. So going on to number 2, permitted use in the mill conservation overlay district. Basically, this would be adding the self-service storage facilities as a permitted use anywheres that's currently zoned mill conversion overlay district. So the Stevens, basically it's the Stevens Mill property, the Packard Mill property, the Chase Mill property.
Yeah, there's one at the end of our lot.
So any of the properties that were part of the mill, part of a mill, you could set up a self-storage facility on
So
that.
the way this is set up, as you can see, it says, a residential use shall be permitted in conjunction with one or more of the following non-residential uses. So this could be allowed as part of a mill conversion project.
Right.
I don't think as a standalone use.
But like if there was a piece of property that was part of the mill, like that piece that's.
Yes, yes, as long as it's affiliated with it somehow on the same property.
Right. Yeah, and it's vacant, they could, because you can get those self-storage units, you can get them portable, they just bring them and slide them down and drop them on the ground and, you know, put a fence around it. And
Right.
there you go, so.
So, you know, that bylaw is fairly extensive, as you know,
Yep.
just having gone through it. So it does give the board a lot of control over the design and the layout of that kind of a thing, so.
Right, okay. All right, so that was number 2. Number 3, this was a request from some landowners off of Fish Road, changing the zoning district from industrial 130 to residential 43 for 8 properties. This was brought up previously, but it was kind of tabled because of 2 of the lots, I believe, were town-owned lots, and they didn't know what they were gonna do with them.
Yes.
Okay. So, but we're gonna go forward with it. We're proposing it for this town meeting,
Yes.
so, okay.
So I'm gonna send letters to there are actually 5 homeowners
Yep,
and one vacant lot owner, so there are 6 owners
yep.
that I'll be sending letters to.
And we
about
got.
this, to invite them to the hearing.
We got no pushback from the Board of Selectmen or anybody?
No.
Okay. All right, that one's easy.
So this would be zoned to residential 43, which
1
is an
acre lot,
acre.
yeah.
So I looked today, all the lots would meet the area requirement. The 2 town-owned lots, one has sufficient frontage and the other doesn't. But there's enough frontage to swap some frontage from the one that has too much to the one that doesn't have enough.
Okay,
But you'd have to get a new plan in order to make that happen.
but that's something the town can do if it chooses to.
So the town
do
would
so.
have, 2 buildable lots that
Right.
it would probably want to sell,
Right,
because it doesn't have any use for
So they need to-
residential lots on Fish Road.
just
so-
need to adjust a lot line.
Right.
Okay. All right, and then, number 4, amend the Dudley zoning bylaw parking standards by adding a new section, electric vehicle charging stations, to establish a requirement for electric vehicle charging stations on parking lots of 20 or more spaces. And
So
was-
this week, we talked about the number 20 last week. I don't know if we came to a hard decision on it, but that's what I went with.
Mhm.
It's still open for discussion if you want to have a different number.
I think it's reasonable. I mean, I can't imagine we're gonna be seeing that many parking lots built in Dudley that have more than 20 spots, you know?
Mhm.
And if it does, then they have to put in two charges. It's,
Is
you
there,
know,
is there any,
Yep.
is there
We'll
any
make that.
language in there, or do you think there's any language that should be added to make sure that they also count the handicap spaces in that calculation of 20?
Well, handicaps are already specified, aren't they, in the bylaw? Number of,
It's still a space. I
Right,
think
so
you need
when
to
they
say
say 20 spaces, we're basically saying if you've got 2 handicap and you've got 18, then you're at the
It's 20.
20.
Yeah, I mean, they could have an electric vehicle too, so I don't,
right.
I would imagine that someone in handicap would probably be in more need for an EV charging station to convenient to their residents as opposed to.
Yeah, I just don't want somebody coming before us and trying to say, well, we didn't count those because they're handicapped and for some reason.
no, I don't think they could make that case.
Yeah, I mean, I think the threshold of 20 is 20 spaces, period, whether they're handicapped or not handicapped.
And Mr. Chairman, we always have the option of amending or changing that. Once we have the language in place, the number can vary at
So
time.
you tell me if you have a used car lot with 20 parking spots, now you gotta put these things in?
No, it's public parking, not a used car lot.
Either way, let's say you got a hair salon with 20 parking spots, now they're gonna be required.
Then
to
yes,
use that.
if you've got a hair
That's
salon
gonna
with 20
suck.
parking spots,
You're
you're
doing
doing
well.
really well.
Now you're requiring them to spend 30 grand to lease it or buy it outright, and then hoping they get their money back. I don't think it's fair that you're making them put it in.
30 grand? That's how much those cost?
Yeah, with those credit card swipers, 30 grand, if you can find a company to lease them to,
But it's construction of, I mean,
yeah, but still.
it's not retroactive to every,
Let's say the dance studio in Dudley, they wanna open one up, she's gonna have 20 parking spots, now you're gonna put an EV thing in there? When it's just dropping off the kids and leaving,
or they have 18.
you know what?
They have 18.
I don't know.
Actually, the
don't-
Patriots-
If they're just
Might be
dropping,
a
if it's the kind of business where they're just dropping off and leaving, then you don't need.
Yeah, but you're gonna make it a requirement for 20.
Actually, you might find the patrons would think that an advantage. I mean, while the kid's in there, doing their, whatever they're doing, plies or whatever.
Yeah, but
you can
let's
plug
talk
the
about
thing
like,
in and you'll get your test at home that night.
greatest hits, if they put them in, right, they're grandfathered in, but they put them in, how long, nobody's gonna plug in their car, they run in and out. So why would you make it requirement to have EV charging stations? That's just putting money against the taxpayers and businesses in this town. We're not close enough to the highway where people are gonna pull over and plug their cars in,
Or you're gonna plug it in on the highway,
off the highway.
off the highway, way off the highway.
Yeah, we are way off the highway.
Right.
So why would you make it mandatory? Like, I can see if they wanna do it on their own and get the tax rebates and everything, but why make it a requirement?
You got people coming into McDonald's and plugging their car in just in
Yeah,
the
but
short
that's
time
off-
that they're going in and getting a meal at McDonald's. I mean, it's
Yeah.
fast food. They're not there that long and they're still
But
doing
we
it.
don't have that.
Yeah, but if we do get a McDonald's bill, we would just, that would have them put it in. I mean, they put one in at Marty's liquor store.
Yeah, because she owns 2 electric cars.
Okay.
Well, there's also some.
Yeah, and then she got the tax credit from it.
And if they put, and if.
So
if
why make
Nichols-
it mandatory to
Nichols
make
Co-
people put it in? If
if
they wanna
Nichols
put it
College-
in, I could say, hey, put it in.
If Nichols College
Go get a special
builds
permit.
another parking lot with 20 spots or more, they put one in too.
Yeah, and they have the money, you know what I mean?
I think it's just the cost of doing business.
Well,
It's
you're
gonna
making
become-
it mandatory for somebody to put in a charging station, that's gonna cost them a fortune.
It's a way of
to put
life.
in.
I mean, I think within
I
the
think
next
it-
10 years, you're not gonna be able
Yeah,
to buy
and
a
I
gas
can
powered
see,
car.
like, doing this 10 years down the road when everyone's driving electric cars.
10
but
years down the
why-
road, it's gonna be too late, because you're gonna have 9 years accumulation of.
Yeah, you're gonna have all those
electric
lots
vehicles on the
already
road.
built that are gonna be, like you just said, grandfathered in. They're not gonna, they're
You
not
can
gonna
have
voluntarily.
businesses
do it.
that can't afford this.
Where are these businesses that can't, that have 20
All right.
spaces for parking, but can't afford to put
A
in?
bank, how many people are gonna stop at your bank and
The
put
bank can't afford it.
a bank next to it, what's up here? The bank, the pizza shop, the nail salon.
That's a strip mall. Somebody
Yeah,
else-
It's a mall.
Somebody
It's
owns
the
a
they
mall.
wanna
It's
put it
entire-
in-
You're not talking about an individual business there, you're talking about
But
the
you are
owner,
talking
probably a
about
third party.
an individual business required to put it in.
Well, this is happening. It's happening not just in Dudley. This is
All
the
right, well,
world that's
I-
changing around. I mean, you're gonna be plugging
Yeah,
things
I
in instead of
know.
putting a gas pump up to your
Well,
vehicle.
I definitely don't support that.
All right.
Is it
Well,
waivable?
Is it what?
Waivable? Can you waive this?
Well, you can go before the zoning board of appeals, you can waive anything, apparently.
Yeah. But why make it mandatory? Why don't you just do a
ZBA
special
thing?
permit? If you guys wanna put a charging station in, pull the permit and put it in, under your own
If you
money.
guys want, who guys wanna put what where? Help me
Anyone
with
that wants to do a business in Dudley.
Anyone that wants to do it.
So that,
So it's part of the process of doing business in Dudley, just as it's part of the process of doing business in Dudley, of providing a parking space and providing a handicap parking space, depending on how many you have. That's part of doing business. There's no
yeah,
return
but
on that.
it doesn't
There's no
cost, it
return on
doesn't
that to
cost
you.
the taxpayer money that's
Yes,
trying
it
to do
does.
them.
Yes, it does. Part of
I
your
don't
property,
think you
part of
understand.
your property is taken up with the space that, in many cases, if you look at the handicap parking spaces, it's out here, for example, or many commercial establishments, many of them are empty. That's space that is taken up. You've paid for that space. You've incurred that cost.
Yeah,
It
but-
hasn't gone away because you painted lines on
Alright,
it.
you wanna open up a business, you got 20 parking spots. Now, hey, you need a charging station. That's. Are
And
gonna-
you
are you gonna
advertise to your
find somebody
customers,
to
and you
lease
advertise
that
to your customers, as a
equipment to it?
convenience to you, we're providing you with this service.
I wouldn't-
Thank you very much.
I
And you
wouldn't-
pass it along to the consumer.
I wouldn't be surprised in the very near future if there isn't electric car companies or charging companies that make the stations that are willing to put them up for free, because.
Yeah, because they make the profit.
They're gonna make
But
a
what
pro-
happens if they don't wanna do it, and now you're gonna make the person that owns that property put them in,
I think,
is what I'm
I
saying.
think it'll be a regular occurrence,
I don't think so.
so. This is just the
It's
start
not
of it.
everyone-
I mean, if somebody doesn't wanna put it in, they just make a 19 spot parking lot, that's pretty easy,
No,
Add another foot to each of the spaces.
yeah.
Yeah, but if
Instead
they
of
have like a
20,
certain
they'll
amount of,
Bring tables or
chairs, you need to have a
chairs,
certain
and
amount of parking spaces.
now
for
you
the
can't do
restaurant.
that. Now you're gonna have to put the charging station in. If they don't wanna lease it
Right,
to
you
you
have to
because
go
you're
for a
not off the
waiver.
highway and they're not gonna make their money back, then you're gonna have to pay for it out front.
Let's see
To
if
make
it's,
it
let's see if it's a big
mandatory.
problem, I don't think it's gonna be a big problem,
Alright, we'll see.
yeah. Again, if somebody needs a waiver, they can go to the ZBA and make an argument.
You could change the number too, it doesn't have to be 1 for 20 if there's a concern that that's too restrictive or
I
too
just,
costly, you
I
could
just
change the
don't,
number.
I don't think that there's gonna be many new businesses coming to Dudley that's gonna open up, that's gonna have more than 20 spots.
Yeah, but you never know. If somebody buys out a business, hair salon, something, gets a new license, and
How much does a commercial EV charging station cost? If you're thinking of installing an EV charging station, it's important to know that the cost can vary depending on a number of factors. Generally speaking, you should budget between $2,000 and $10,000 per level 2
Per
charging
lot,
station.
per level two.
This includes the electrical and construction work as well as the charger itself. 2 to 10,000, not 30.
2,000
Don't inflate
wouldn't
numbers to
even-
try and make your argument.
yeah, 2,000 wouldn't even.
Don't
cut the
inflate numbers to
wire.
try and make your argument.
Okay.
All right, so
Fair
there's some
enough.
wiggle room in terms of the cost of these
Oh,
things, and if somebody negotiates very well, maybe they get it for 1,800 instead. All right, can we move forward, Mr. Chairman?
Yep, so next one that we had, to discuss is there's a parking stand, number 5. So this is the driveway curb cut permit section, adding design standards for construction of shared driveways. So this was brought up because we have one driveway can be used for 2 houses. Only by special permit of the Board of Appeals can more than 2 houses use the same driveway. Shared driveways shall meet the following design standards. And these are all new design standards that we're putting in for shared driveways, just to make sure that, they're not built, before they had no standards, so they could be built however. But I mean, if you're thinking about it, if you've got two houses sharing a driveway, that's probably typically at least gonna be 4 cars driving back and forth on the driveway on a daily basis, maybe more if they have children. You need to probably set some kind of standards as to how wide they should be and how they need to be constructed so that we don't have problems where, cars are driving off the driveway so another car can come in and vice versa.
In addition to which, Mr. Chairman, we have a number of delivery services that are out there that hadn't been, let's say, 10 or 20 years ago, that are on the road on a regular basis. And in many cases, you get an Amazon truck and a school bus on Mason Road, and you shut the road down. They're just, some of them are wide enough, and
So I guess I would just call your attention to 2 items. Number 1, the distance measurement I have from the street line to the point where the shared driveway splits into individual driveways shall not exceed 500 feet.
Which I think is reasonable.
Okay.
That's a long driveway.
Yeah, you wouldn't wanna be plowing that or shoveling that.
And you're saying that as long as it splits into 2 by the time it gets to 500 feet, you could go another.
Yes.
Yeah.
200 feet in either direction,
Yes.
yeah.
And then the other one was number 3, the width I have, a minimum cleared width of 20 feet and a minimum travel way of 16 feet.
Which again is reasonable.
Okay.
Can you define that for me? Are we talking about the 16 feet would be the paved surface as
It
opposed
doesn't
to
have to
just?
be paved, but it has to be
Gravel.
graded and,
Okay.
prepared.
Drivable.
and that is a dimension that's generally acceptable as far as emergency vehicles are concerned.
Yes.
So you can't have any trees or anything growing in that 2-foot buffer on
Right.
each side.
Yeah, so there's
Gotcha.
at least room to pull over a little bit on a shoulder.
Sure.
The 6% for the first 50 feet upward or downward gradient, that's on our current guidelines.
Yes.
So
It's
it's
in the
good that we
current-
put it on there too, just so that
Exactly.
somebody doesn't think they get a special treatment.
I
because
thought we
they're-
should be consistent, yes.
Yeah. No, I read through all this, Bill, I thought it was well done.
Okay, good.
And some of these we got from other towns that were
Yes.
already in existence, so
Correct.
it's not like we're rewriting the book here. Okay, so that's the zoning amendments. That takes care of new business. Does anybody else have any other questions on the zoning amendments? Standard
Yeah, I got something, it's to renovate parking lots too, that would generate that electrical vehicle, right? Renovation of parking lots too, so like a parking shop would have had to put in like 4 or 5 of them,
Yeah, probably more
right?
than that.
So,
We have a maximum of
you
5.
guys keep saying that, it's like people not coming in, but we already have places, so.
Well, Parking Shop got renovated and they didn't even come for the site plan review, so while we're on that topic, I did have a conversation with the town administrator, so.
Okay.
Bill, I would like to ask you if you could, put together a letter. Get from the assessor, I think you can get from the assessor's office, the address and the, name of the owners of the Parking Shop Plaza. And I think we should put a letter together and just point out to them that they violated the zoning bylaw by not coming to the planning board for their, I think that was a major site plan review if they're over 10 parking spots, which they did. And let them know that, for future reference, that they need to do this. And while we're not gonna make them jump through the hoops of doing it after the fact, I feel strongly, and I think the town administrator was with me when he said that we should ask them to pay the fee for the site plan review, which I believe is $2,500, isn't it, for a major site plan review?
I'm not sure, is it that much? I think it's,
I think it's
Okay.
2,500, but I mean,
Okay.
I think the town should at least get the fee for the, whatever the major site plan review fee would be, I think they should at least pay that.
Mr. Chairman, would it be when they pulled the permit that should have been made known to them, or did
They
somebody?
didn't pull a permit.
They didn't pull a permit for that at all?
for a parking lot,
No, you
No?
would just go through major site plan review.
you don't need a building permit for a parking lot, so. Okay.
Because much of that parking lot was reconstructed.
Right.
They just took it all out and started over again.
That's what would have made them, that's what would have
Triggered it.
Yeah,
So it would be $275 filing fee and a $1,500 review fee, so that would be $1,750.
okay. I mean, I think that's fair to ask them to pay that, because that's money that the town would have taken in if they had done it. And they're gonna be, they're gonna be still making out like a bandit, because they didn't have to go pay any engineer to do any drawings or anything for them, and they got their parking lot repaired, so.
Okay. I'll have that letter for you to review for the next meeting, and then,
Yeah, I mean, if you can write it up so that it's, talk with the town administrator, but I think you could, he said he would be willing to sign it, so I think you could write it so that
Okay.
it's coming from him.
okay.
But, just let it, because I don't think he's familiar with all the zoning bylaws as to what, and the fees and all that, so.
Okay.
I mean, it's real money. I think the town should be able to recoup some of that,
Okay.
so.
One final thought on this electric vehicle thing. I'm reading the article right now, and I don't see any language here that would indicate that it has. My thinking is, if it's an existing business and they're just repaving their existing parking lot and not adding more spaces, that I don't think that would necessarily trigger this bylaw and create a situation where they had to add charging stations.
With a renovated parking though.
There's nothing in the article here that says that renovated.
For every new or renovated parking lot, containing 20 or more.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't read it. I didn't read far enough down.
Right underneath 40109.
So we'd have to make a change in the language if that was your
For
intent.
every new or renovated parking lot containing 20 or more,
I think they should be able to come for a waiver too, like through us, and not have to pay that fee for the ZBA, because that's almost like $500 to go to the ZBA. If they have to send out a butter list, That's another thing I was thinking.
Can we make it part of the site plan review?
Well, we know that new parking lots require site plan review.
Right, so like if they come to us, like, let's just say Park and Shop came to us for their renovations, and and we had this bylaw in place, and they said to us, you know, look, I don't know what they got there, what would you say, 200 parking spots?
Probably.
So they got 200 parking spots, and they would say, well, you know, we're required to put in 10 of these charging
Well, we have
sta-
up to a maximum of 5.
Yeah, okay, so they're just gonna say, we have to put in 5 of these charging stations, and it's cost prohibitive, but we'd be, you know, if they came to us and said, but we would be willing to put in 1 or 2, could that be something that's a waiver on a site plan review versus going to the ZBA? I think is what you're trying to say.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at.
So what would you want to do? Allow a waiver for a renovation of a parking lot? Or not require it for a renovation?
That's a good question, because if you don't specify renovation, then everybody could just come and say, oh, we don't want to do it.
Right, but I mean, I think like, that's gotta be the biggest parking lot in town.
Mhm.
Eventually, they need to have something there.
Right.
We're not gonna have to tell them that, they're gonna know it, you know? Because the renters aren't gonna wanna have,
Mhm.
you know, are not gonna wanna pay their rent if they can't have visitors that have electric cars come
Mhm.
in and recharge.
Mhm. Well, we don't have to decide tonight, I think, you know.
Yeah,
It's a valid point, so we can hear comments from the public on that, and you can decide at the hearing what you think would be the better way to go.
yeah, I mean, I think we can be reasonable, but I mean, like, I would think at a parking lot that size, that they wouldn't balk at putting 5 charging stations in a parking lot that size. And that, like I said, that's gotta be the biggest parking lot in town. Well, maybe the mill parking lot will be bigger once that's up, but I gotta believe that the mill will probably have something in there too.
Isn't this a revenue stream too? I mean, obviously, people have to pay for this service, you don't get it for nothing. So, are they recouping something, or what agreement do they have through the provider in terms of
Well,
National
some,
Grid or how?
some car companies do give you, if you, like, I know, I believe it's Volkswagen, if you buy an all-electric Volkswagen, they bought Charge America or something like that, that's all across the country. If you own a new Volkswagen, for the first 2 years, I believe, you can go to any of those charging stations and charge your car for free. So it's a benefit for the car, you know, the car's
Yeah,
owner.
right.
And, you know, Volkswagen wants to make sure that these charging stations are plentiful, so people will buy more of their cars.
I understand, but obviously, at year 3, you're gonna foot the bill.
Right.
And beyond, so at some point, the money's coming out of your wallet.
Yeah, somebody's gotta pay for it, nothing's,
Somebody's gonna pay for it.
nothing's
Right.
free.
No, not for nothing. Now, let's take the example of the ones at Marty's. I mean, you've gotta pay for that, I assume, right, if you're
I
plugging in?
have no idea,
Well, again-
never went to Marty's.
Well, I'm gonna go back to your thought, somebody's gotta pay for it.
Somebody's gotta
Unless
pay
you're
for
riding
it.
the buses in Worcester, nothing is for free. So you're gonna have to pay for this, so who are you paying? You're paying the utility, and perhaps the owner can work an agreement with the utility in terms of some kind of an arrangement. where
Well, it
they
must
get
be like
something.
solar, which they kick you back.
Because
or
obviously,
something.
the owner of the property, the
But
commercial property is the
solar you
attraction.
still pay for
that's
out of your
bringing you,
pocket
or
no
might
matter
be bringing
what.
you to that service nets. Please?
You get solar panels in your house, what do? You lease them, right?
Or you lease or you buy.
You lease or you buy.
Right.
And it's gonna be the same thing with the charging
Same with the
stations. You
charging
lease them or you buy them.
Or from 2,000 to 10,000.
Yeah.
We just lowered the cost of it with $2,800, $28,000 today.
Yeah, until they buy that copper wire.
I mean,
Thousand right there.
I would like to see when we have the public hearing, what the public has to say about it. If there's a lot of outcry, then
Mhm.
we'll see. But I honestly think that at some point in time, we've gotta make provisions for them to go in, otherwise, you know, they're not gonna put them in if they don't have to.
Well, that's why the state gives them rebates to put them in. And then you get tax credit on it for being a rental.
And all of that is transitory, that's not gonna last forever, those things are gonna go
So
away at some
it's a
point.
public benefit, right? If you have an electric vehicle, you need to get it charged up someplace, and many people in the public will have these cars, and it will
Yeah.
increase.
Frankly,
The question is who pays, and what's the cost, and is it unreasonable to require a private owner to put them in for
Yeah.
a general public purpose?
Mr. Chairman, I suspect that the biggest need for these would probably be on the Nichols campus, in terms of the number of vehicles, and people traveling distance to get there. And obviously, we don't have much control over that, as a private institution.
But I think ultimately they'll put them in if
Yeah,
there's a
they'll
need
put
for
them in.
Well, they will.
And then they'll get the kickback from the state.
I mean, my
They'll put 'em in.
my company has 10 right now, and they're talking about putting an additional 10.
No kidding?
Yeah, IPG has a whole bunch of them too. And they get the rebate, so why not put them in?
Oh, those poor companies, how can they afford them?
All right, ready, next item?
Okay, so the next item, we're gonna move on to standard business, so this is, discussion status report on finishing construction and of acceptance of uncompleted, unaccepted subdivision streets, including Pierpont Estates, Rocky Hill Estates, Country View Estates, Eisenhower Drive, Tobin Farm Estates, Lyon Estates. Have we heard any more?
Nothing specific. We know that Tobin Farm and Misty Meadows are going to be on
The warrant?
town meeting warrant. We're not asking the neighborhood to get together and send us any decision on whether they support it or not. That decision will be made at town meeting, so they can come and,
Who's sponsoring that article? Is it Selectmen?
I forget.
Okay, but it's not the planning board?
Probably the selectmen, because they're the highway commissioners.
Okay.
So Tobin Farm residents won't even have a say if they want the betterments law or not? You just go to a town meeting to vote?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's.
That kinda sucks.
What are you saying?
So,
Tobin.
we're not asking ahead of time for,
They're not asking the residents to do the betterments,
To
they're
let
just
us know
gonna
whether they
let the
support it
people
or not.
vote on it.
Well, I mean, if you live in Tobin Farms and you're against it, you can get up at town meeting and state your case. I mean, most
Yeah,
people in the
but-
room are gonna go with what you're asking for.
If you make a logical,
Yeah.
sane argument.
Yeah.
Pretty much, but, I don't know, doesn't seem fair. If I lived on that road, I wouldn't be happy. That's my money, why can't it be up to people on that road to decide that?
If you were on that road and you were just handed the deal that's being offered to you by the town right now, you should be jumping up and down, clapping your hands, praising Jesus.
Yeah, well.
Because in 10 years, if you lived on that road and the road started to fall apart, and oh, by the way, the town decided they are rarely gonna plow it in the wintertime, you'd be begging for it. If you started to see your housing values start to plummet because the road started to deteriorate in front of your house and nobody was fixing it because it wasn't a town-accepted road. Believe me, I don't know why you don't think this is a good deal for them.
Because it's not up to me, because I don't live on Tobin Farms.
I mean,
And
there's-
people, who knows what the economy's gonna do?
There's 46 houses in that subdivision? So, I mean, if 46 households show up to town meeting, that's like 90 people. They can get anything they want.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they show up.
Yep. They could elect you pope if you went up there and sponsored the article.
Huh?
That seems somewhat unlikely, but.
so Guy, we think that for Country View Estates, the
Oh,
owner
yeah.
is going to have his as-built plan prepared and bring it forward for acceptance?
He is. I actually got a phone call with him this week, so what I can report back is that discussed with him what I discussed with the town administrator previously. He has been in contact with his engineer. His engineer's given him a price to do the as-built plan. He's accepting of the cost of the as-built plan. I think the agreement's gonna be that the cost of the as-built plan is gonna come out of the escrow account. And he's gonna plan, we don't think this is gonna happen this year, the problem is, so it won't be, obviously it won't be at fall town meeting, it'll be at spring town meeting. So he's trying to push the engineer to get the as-built plan done as soon as possible, but the engineer's working on a huge project in Douglas right now, so he doesn't know how fast it's gonna materialize, but he's pushing him as much as he can.
Okay.
And he's gonna recruit a contractor to plow the street for this winter while he's not living in Massachusetts, so that'll be taken care of. And then hopefully this is the last year that it has to be plowed by a private contractor, and we can get the as-built plan straightened out and then get the road accepted at the Springtown meeting. So
So
that's what
to
it's.
avoid misunderstanding, we should probably put this in writing and make sure
Yeah.
both parties agree to this
Without a
arrangement.
doubt.
Right, I just wanted, I tried to get in touch with the town administrator today, but I didn't get
Okay.
I didn't get in touch with him. I just wanted to get everything to him,
Okay,
and make sure that he's still agreeable. This is what we had discussed before I went to talk to Mr. Heaney. So I think, it's gonna be okay, but I just wanna make sure it's agreeable. And then, yeah, I would agree with you that we should put it down in writing.
right.
Because like I said, his plan is to leave the state at the end of this year, so
Mhm.
we need to know.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to thank you for having established a line of communication that was long in coming and with a great deal of difficulty to which I think the town planner could attest over the years, trying to make contact with this individual and to work out any kind of agreement at all. So thank you very much for doing so, and I'm sure the residents up there appreciate that.
Nothing set in stone, what's on paper.
Right,
Well, yeah.
and we need to get the as-built
Admittedly.
plan.
But at least there's a dialogue. When we had nothing, when we had letters being returned, we had no indication this individual was even a resident or where he was a resident, so.
So the only other issue that I could think of that was possibly pending on that subdivision was, I do remember that we had an issue with street trees, and the previous highway superintendent didn't want them put in because he was afraid that they were gonna just upheave the sidewalks. So I think once we get the as-built plan, I think my thought was that we would just hold we could just do a minor modification to an existing subdivision, waive the street trees, and, you know, I don't think, for a minor modification, it's not required to have a public hearing or anything like that, correct, Bill?
probably, right.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think if anybody was upset with the street trees, we would've heard about it long before now.
Mhm.
And if you drive up there, most people have a tree in their
Yeah,
yard, so
yeah.
it's not like there's a lack of trees, so.
Yeah, I agree with you. The tree thing should be out.
Yeah.
People plant their own shrubs and bushes. and
Yeah, and I mean, that.
Developer puts them in, they dig them out next day anyways.
Yeah, I mean, some of those houses up there are close to 20 years old, so, I mean, like I said, I think if you go and try to plant trees in somebody's yard now, they could be damaging sprinkler systems or whatever, so I think it's just, we
I
waive it.
remember in one of our subdivision plans, Jeff Walsh recommended creating a tree easement or something of that order outside of the right-of-way, so that it didn't interfere with sidewalks and that kind of thing.
That's what they did on my street, they put the trees on the, basically on the edge of the easement and on the property lines in between the houses, which works out pretty good, with the exception of, sometimes you have utilities there also, so you gotta deal with the transformers and handholds and stuff like that, but in the subdivision that I live in, that's what they did, they put them, basically, the trees are on private property on everybody's lot, but they're on the boundary lines between the two houses and on the boundary line of the street, so it's far enough away from the sidewalk that it shouldn't really hurt anything, so.
So after everything's approved, what keeps that property owner from cutting down a tree on their own private property?
Nothing.
Well, we had one break off in an ice storm, and it's not been replaced, so there's one tree missing. Yeah, so that's all I have on Eisenhower. Is there anything else on any of the other ones?
No, not on number one.
Okay. So under number 2, we have inspections and actions associated with site plans. So we have Legacy Landing, Country Club Acres. So that we all got the review of the condominium documents.
So, I had sent those documents to town council. 'Cause
Okay,
they're
that was-
essentially legal documents.
Right.
Yeah, I see the same thing.
We're not subject matter experts on any of that, so.
So, town council said they wouldn't be ready with comments for tonight's meeting.
Okay.
So we'll probably take that up at the next meeting.
And does town council know that there is supposed to be a recreational trail around the property?
Don't know.
The trail is mentioned in the documents.
Right.
At least I saw one
Decision.
reference to it.
Yeah.
But I think it was part of the common space, if I recall. One of the things that surprised me a bit in there is I understood this to be 55 and over. And as I read it, there was one resident required to be 55 and over, and then there was something about an 80% of the buildings, I assume. So I don't know whether the other 20% would
Yeah.
allow someone under 55 in
Yeah,
it?
that's common.
Okay, so it's, all right, so it's not 100% 55 and
No,
older?
no.
All right, this is a misconception, misconstrued on my part. I
One
thought
person in the house is
One
55,
person out,
yeah.
and then you could have another residence
Yeah.
without anybody over 55, the way I'm reading of it.
No, I think it's one person per household has to be 55.
Well,
Yeah,
it said,
one
it
person
had
has to
something
live there
in there
55
about
usually, and
80%. And again, it was scintillating reading, I mean, you just, it's a page turner. I don't know how lawyers get through these things, but there was an 80% mention in there.
So I wonder if that's a conflict with the town bylaw then?
I don't know, I'm wondering what, I honestly am not sure what that meant. I was surprised to see something like that, and if there's any way we could get clarification on it, I certainly would appreciate that.
Okay.
My assumption was, I think as Mr. Chairman has it, that one person 55 and over and anybody else, with the exception of the number of bedrooms that's there.
Okay.
But, so, no, two's on top of it.
80%?
Okay.
80%. Because in Florida, if it's 55, it's 55. You can't even have the kids at the pool.
So it's,
Right, so you're right, Richard, it does say,
Declaration of trust, is that where that was?
it's on page 34 of the Declaration of Trust.
all right, so let's just think about this logically. There's what, 22 lots, 22 houses in that subdivision?
23, I thought. but-
23?
22, I think.
Oh, I overcounted.
It says, shall be occupied at least one person 55 years of age or older with respect to at least 80% of the units.
So,
So only
units.
80%.
So that means four units could be sold to somebody less than 55.
Right.
I mean, that's not really a big deal.
no, not a big deal, but again, I think it was presented, and I think I understood it, and maybe a misunderstanding on my part is 55 and over in all cases, all dwellings, or all units, so, again, a little bit of a
I don't know
surprise.
if our bylaw is written that way though.
Honestly, I wonder if those people who have purchased, and from what I've been able to observe, most of them would be in 55 and over category, whether they're aware that they may have some neighbors that are considerably younger, or potentially younger. Might be a little surprise for them when the parties start.
It might be part of the like equal housing.
I don't know. Is it general, mass general law,
Affordable
page?
law kind of thing.
Which page,
Affordable
31?
housing.
34.
34, oh, I'm almost there.
Put that 20% over by Richard's house.
What's that?
Put the 20% over by your house. Little teeners.
Well, they may be coming, I don't know already.
Nichols kids.
Is anybody you know
I
offhand?
don't know which Nichols kids can afford those houses. I mean, I know Nichols is an expensive school,
Surprised.
but.
Surprise.
Yeah, it'd be real
Parents will pay for it.
surprise.
All right, in accordance with local and state federal law by at least one person, I guess, so apparently there's local, state, and federal law that pertains. As it reads, the units within the condominium are
Trying to make a
intended
couple frat houses for
condominium are
Nichols.
intended to be occupied in accordance with local, state, federal law by at least one person, 55 years of age or older, with respect to at least 80% of the 80% in parentheses of the units in the condominium. So assuming that if an attorney drew this up, there's some reference that he has to federal, local, or state law that allows that.
Yeah. You may not be able to discriminate 100% and say they're gonna be 55 and older.
And that may be it, maybe something to that effect,
Yeah.
okay. Again.
That's why the lawyers
just-
make all the money that they get.
Lawyers read stuff a lot different.
I would tell you, it takes a lot of no-dos to read through these documents, to be honest with you.
All right, so we're expecting we'll get some feedback from town
Yes.
council on this. Okay. Was there anything on the solar on Oxford Ave or
No.
JD&D on Oxford Ave?
Although I think there's been discussion about allowing battery energy storage facilities at solar farms
Yes.
as a storage mechanism where these solar farms obviously produce energy during the day, and these battery facilities can store it so that it can provide the energy to the grid at nighttime or some other peak period when it's needed. So our bylaw doesn't have a standard for this. So I think there may be a request from some of these solar companies to change the bylaw to allow these kind of storage systems to come in adjacent to solar farms.
Right, my guess is they're gonna be some kind of containerized.
Yeah, the shipping containers.
Pretty
They have
much, yeah.
container
Yeah.
type of things.
We had, the folks that were developing the property on Indian Road, I believe there was a question that was raised, wasn't there, as I recall, in regards to the storage of batteries, hazardous waste materials, et cetera, and I think they had, what I recall is a pretty good explanation as to how that was gonna be handled. Sounded somewhat
So
reassuring.
This was the one that was going on top of the
On top of the landfill.
landfill, yeah.
But would there be that great a difference in terms of the batteries, I mean, the chemical composition or
Well,
the
the
construction of
the
them?
one on the landfill is gonna be a pretty small solar array compared to some of the ones that
Right.
are in town already.
Yeah, most of them I've seen are shipping containers.
Right.
And they got flags and signs all over them.
Yeah.
At some point, Mr. Chairman, I suspect there may be an issue with regards to the storage of batteries that are no longer usable as far as the EV vehicle situation is concerned. These things are pretty good size. I mean, it's not like the kind of battery we're used to seeing in an internal combustion
Yeah, they
engine.
can occupy an acre or so, they could be significant.
We have something in there?
No, but they can be that size, depending
Right.
on the size of the solar field.
We're gonna have to find, it's gonna have to be, I would think, maybe at the state level, some regulation in terms of how you store these, where you store
Right.
these, and proper disposal thereof, and that kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah, same as the mercury batteries, you know, don't throw them in the trash.
Right.
Yeah.
Hear the song on the radio.
600 times a day.
Yeah.
I wonder what their budget is.
Planner's plate is next on the list. Anything on your,
Yes, I would just mention that I attended the Capital Improvement Plan Committee / FAA Committee meeting last week and asked to have a master plan included in the capital plan. And it was approved and accepted and so voted to an amount of $100,000. So that provides recognition that it's a capital need of the town to update the master plan, but it doesn't provide any funding for it. So it'd be up to me and the board to figure out ways to, how to pay for this through grants or, matches or whatever we might be able to come up with from other sources. So I just wanted to let you know that I think we have the blessing now of the town to go ahead and start working on this.
is $100,000 enough? Because I thought the last one was more than that.
Well, I think we'll have to be careful with it. There are some, planning studies have been done, for example, during the open space plan. We have a couple of economic development plans that have been done. So I think it's possible. But if it costs more, then, we need to, see if we can get it paid for from some other source.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, to the planner, is there any chance we could partner with CMRPC on this, or is there any chance that they could help us defer
Yes.
some of the costs on this?
Sure.
Okay, so you
That
want
would
me
be
to
one
keep-
way to make it affordable.
And then, I can't remember how we paid for the last one, but it's gotta be written down
The
somewhere.
last one is 22 years old.
Yeah, it's 2,000, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
some of it, as I think I mentioned, it's from our previous meeting, some of the information in there is based on the 1990 census.
Yeah.
So it's in excess of 30 years old in
Mhm.
terms of some of what's there. So it's long overdue.
But it's
I
a
don't know, maybe they
requirement.
read
It's
the
a-
minutes of some of our meetings and realized that there was a need for one.
It's a requirement that we have one, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now,
So, I mean-
unfortunately, the state doesn't require you update it or you maintain it, it's just that you have to have one.
Right, so I mean, now that you've put it like on the to fund list, basically, we'll have to bring, go to, if we have to go have a meeting with the Board of Selectmen to let them know that this is a
Mhm.
necessary
Right.
document, and this is what the cost is.
Usually through a grant program, there's a local match required, so if we could get
Yeah,
50% paid through from state source and
Right.
50% from the town, I think.
right, but that
That's
has,
the kind of thing.
that
I
has to
think
be
we-
put into the budget so that we can vote it in at town meeting.
Yes.
What action, Bill, was taken at that meeting? Did they indicate that they're in agreement that there is need for, and they want to advance this process, or was there a vote taken?
There was a vote taken to include it in the CIP.
Included in?
Yes.
And this body is chaired by the town manager, isn't he?
No.
Or at least he's a member of.
Well, he's not a member, I wouldn't think.
I thought he was in
But
attendance
he's
at
a
the meeting.
staff member who provides the information and maintains. you know,
Maybe I misunderstood. I thought he was at least in attendance at the meeting.
I don't know, that's just my guess. So, it's recognized now as an important need of the town, I think it's the first step. So I think we now have the go-ahead to start working on it.
Okay.
What do you see as our involvement with that going forward, can I ask?
Well, state law places it under the planning board's jurisdiction.
Mm-hmm.
So you are the entity that has to be in charge of the plan. Now, you can create a master plan committee
Right.
to,
An ad hoc committee and get members from other boards.
Yes.
And you can also get members at large from the public to join. But I
the
think.
plan is deemed adopted when the planning board votes to adopt it. It doesn't need to go to town meeting.
Right.
So it's the planning board's plan.
I think the last time, there was three, if I remember right, there was three members of the planning board that participated in it,
Mhm.
3 out of 5. So,
Did we use a third-party contractor on that, Mr. Chairman? or did we
CMRPC
do it
prepared the
internally?
plan.
yeah, it was the third party.
Third party?
Yeah.
You don't recall the cost on that 20 years ago? or so?
I thought the old one was like $120,000.
Oh, wow.
I doubt it, but not at that point in time.
Okay.
At that rate, this would be $250,000 at least.
That's why I
there was
asked if 100,000 was gonna cover it.
There was some shock at the $100,000 figure.
That's low.
So, I know, but.
That's low.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, because I thought the going rate right now was around $200,000 for a master plan to be, just a turnkey to be fully developed by some.
I know CMRPC did West Brookfield's plan, which is a smaller town than Dudley, so I could find out what that cost was.
Okay,
Yeah.
that would be a good
Yeah.
starting place.
Mhm.
Was this recently, like in the last couple of years? or-
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that would be good, Bill, thank you. Anything else from the planner's plate?
Nope.
Comments from the planning board? Nothing else, Mr. Clark?
No, it's just,
Okay, I mean, I don't think we're gonna get any.
Oh, the only thing I would make comment on is, I asked a question earlier this evening of the planner before Gavin. And at what point does a town, now currently Phil's status is that of acting town planner. He's been acting longer than many plays have been on Broadway at this point. When is it advisable, is it recommended, is it suggested that a town have a planner who is a permanent full-time planner as opposed to a acting planner as the status is currently?
Well,
And I'm trying to do some research on that, but I haven't come up with an answer. And I asked the acting planner if he knew, and I think his suggestion was somewhere in 10 to 12,000 population,
Right.
which we certainly reach.
right, we had a full-time town planner, 2 planners before Bill.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I'm trying to remember the years of this. This was obviously before COVID, so I'm thinking this was probably back to around 2017, 2018. When that planner left town to go work for a different town, the Board of Selectmen came to the planning board, and I was on the planning board at the time, and I went to the Board of Selectmen, and they asked, do we still need to have a full-time planner, or can we get by with a part-time planner?
Mm-hmm.
So at that point in time, there wasn't much going on in town. There was no new subdivisions. We've had new subdivisions come forward since then,
Mhm.
but at that point in time, there wasn't much going on. So our recommendation at the time was we didn't need a full-time planner, that we could get by with a part-time planner. So that's what happened, and we've had a previous planner to Bill, and now Bill, so he's the second part-time planner that we've had, or
Mhm.
interim planner.
I understand.
With also CMRPC filling in between places, because, we had an issue with the previous planner with some
Illnesses, yeah.
and stuff like that, so we had to make do. But, yeah, I mean, I would say, right now, what do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4 active subdivisions in town?
Well, you have one major project in terms of the Stevens Linen.
Right.
And hopefully something else with regards to the Mill Overlay District at some point in the future.
Yeah.
That one may be a little more challenging, and I think that building is also in a rather precarious condition at this point, so I don't know what involvement there might be there, but I suspect it's more than just the usual, clearing a cornfield and putting in some houses.
I mean, I think the issue was, that, at the time, the town was looking at the budget, and I think they're always looking at the budget, but, I mean, if you have a full-time planner, it's not just the salary of the planner, but it's also the benefits.
Oh, sure.
And all this
Yeah.
other stuff,
Yeah,
so,
yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's, when you have a part-time planner, it's not.
All right, but I would submit you do get what you pay for.
Oh, yeah, and it's, in my opinion, it was better to go with a part-time planner, because I thought we would get a better quality individual than if we went with a full-time planner, but we couldn't pay the going wage. And I think the going, not to put you on the spot, Bill, but I think the going wage is what, probably in the $40 to $50 an hour range?
Well, full-time would be probably 70,000.
70,000, okay, I was
Yeah.
looking per hour,
Yeah.
okay.
My own final comment would be, if not now, then at some point we will make it to where that becomes more of an issue. I suspect that, I don't know, if we want to look down the road,
I mean,
how
if-
far down the road do we need to look, I suppose.
Right, I mean, if we wanted to put in a full-time, if we wanted to go back to a full-time planner, I think if we approached it with the Board of Selectmen, we would have to put it in our budget for like the following year, and put it in the budget and see if it comes through. And if we get it, then that's how it would work.
Okay.
I mean,
Just opening the thought up in terms of something for
Yeah.
consideration, and as I said, obviously, we're not looking to make any move here on 9/28/2022, but at some point down the road, I think it does become an issue.
Well, I think every town around you has a full-time planner.
Yeah.
You know, Webster, Southbridge, Spencer, Charlton,
and
Oxford.
a lot of towns around us have full-time engineers.
All right.
Which I tried to get the town to be looking at, back in 2017.
Yeah.
That I thought maybe having a full-time engineer would be a better situation for the town of Dudley versus having a full-time planner, because I mean,
Right.
even a little town like Douglas has a full-time engineer.
I go with the engineer.
That's certainly
Engineer
another
stamps it,
thought
it's
to be
fine.
considered.
Engineer puts a stamp on it and they're good.
Yeah. I mean, it would be great if you could find somebody that was, you know,
Both?
if you could find a professional engineer that has a planning background.
We could ask the highway superintendent if he wasn't of that.
So, but yeah, I mean, that's, yeah, definitely something to think about for the future, but I mean, it would be a considerable cost increase as far as the budget goes.
Understand. Unfortunately, we've, over the years, I think the tradition in Dudley has been to defer cost at all cost.
Right.
And at some point, again, you know, coming back to the old adage, you know, you get what you pay for. Somewhere down the road, you have to pay the piper.
Right, and one of the things that I'll bring up, and I mean, I think they just raised, did they just raise all the building permits?
Yes, many of them.
Yeah, we haven't raised our permit prices on the planning board.
2005.
2005, yeah, so I mean, it's 17 years. I think we could look at our permits and, you know, we could almost, you know, try to look at being somewhat self-funded.
Well, the fees don't go to the planning board, they go into the town fund.
Right, but they go into the town fund, right.
Okay.
But I mean, yeah, I mean, like, I'm surprised that, you know, that tonight when we just were talking about that, how much it costs for a major site plan review, it's like $1,750. I thought we were already past $2,500. We should be. I don't think there's any towns around us giving out major site plan reviews for
You know, I
$1,700.
think when we send the work out for peer review, it's always exceeded the amount of $1,500, which is what we require, so certainly be justified in raising the amount to what it really costs.
Mhm. Yeah. And I think that, you know, not having raised our fees in 17 years, we should probably put that on the agenda to take a look at in the very near future.
Didn't the Board of Selectmen have somebody come in that actually had done a review of all the neighboring
I
towns'
think it was a
permit
Nichols-
structure?
Nichols
Yeah.
College
They
student
had,
did it for them.
Yeah.
They had
so-
an intern that had done some comparisons in terms of the local towns in the area, and they deferred on those where Dudley was actually higher, I believe, on some. They deferred on making any changes downward, they only went upward, those opportunities presented themselves.
I mean, we could easily get all the fees for the abutting towns, right?
Sure.
And just take a look at that, and see where they are.
All right, maybe, as you said, we could self-fund a full-time planner,
Well, or at least make a contribution.
and make contributions. Contributions always appreciated.
Accepted, yeah.
That would have to be approved at town meeting, right? Raising those fees?
No.
No.
It's planning board regulation.
Yeah, we would
Oh,
just raise
really?
them.
Yes.
The selectmen did it without any approval of town
Yeah.
meeting.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, no comments from the audience. Next meeting date is set at October 12th, 2022, 7 PM in this room.
And I'm still expecting the revised Nichols College site plan for the following meeting.
The 26th, right?
26th,
Yes. Okay, so we'll see what they
You know
come
what
back
they're
with.
doing? Are they redesigning it or
They're working on the stormwater plan.
stormwater plan?
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if it's in order, I would make a motion, we adjourn.
Here we have a
Just
motion.
Before we do that, I just,
Sorry.
don't have anything new, but just wanted to let you know that I've been putting a lot of information up on the planning board page of the website.
Okay.
So you might want to take a look at it. I'm trying to, put up old plans and documents and things
Is
that
our
have
fee
been.
schedule up there?
Yes.
Okay.
So I have the bylaw, the subdivision regs, the fee schedule.
On the town website specifically.
Are
I know
they-
we're into Facebook and
No,
Instagram
it's just,
and TikTok and everything
It's
else
on
out
the
there.
planning board page on the town website.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I encourage you to take a look at that so you can see what's there.
Thank you, Bill.
And if you have anything else you can think of you'd like me to put up, let me know.
You got our dates on when our meetings are? Because I seen that was missing
No.
last time.
I haven't. That's not a bad idea.
I looked it up and I was
Meeting,
like, oh,
meeting agenda.
yeah, well,
A meeting schedule?
Yeah.
meeting schedule,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, sorry, not agenda, meeting schedule. Okay, I think we had a motion for adjournment. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. Good night, everybody.